Yo, 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 what up, y'all? It's your boy Rob coming back at you once again with another Auditing Africa. So before we get started, you already know what to do. If you're not subscribed to the channel, make sure you hit the bell icon twice. Smash the like button, share this video out to all of your followers, and let's get it cracking, all right? So shout out to everybody who is in the room early. If you guys can hear me okay, give me a thumbs up. If you guys cannot hear me okay, then give me a thumbs down. I'm going to give some acknowledgments to the people who are in the building early. We got Terrence Jackson in the building. We got Carlton Way in the house. We got my man AB Promotion in the building. And we got my man Cameron Jones in the house. All right, so shout out to everybody that is watching on YouTube. Shout out to everybody that is watching on Rumble. Make sure you guys hit those like buttons. Also, make sure that you guys share the stream. All right. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be talking about some interesting things going on in Africa. All right. We're going to be talking about the African economy. All right. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Do you all remember when the Ukraine war first happened? And also, I'm going to be doing a stream about what's going on in Russia possibly tomorrow. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to Newscast. If you're not subscribed to Newscast, make sure that you guys do. If you're subscribed to Rumble or if you're subscribed to Twitch, you will be able to catch the streams over there. All right, just make sure that you guys have your notifications hit. But if you guys remember that time period when the inflation all over the place was at a 40-year high, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't remember that, give me a thumbs down. Now, for the most part, worldwide, when that inflation was at that high rate, if I'm not mistaken, the inflation rate, the consumer price index, was between, I want to say, 9 and 11%. 9 and 11%, right? And that was bad. The gas prices were out of control. Gold was at a 40-year high. The commodities market was off the chain. You guys remember? It was really bad. I want you guys to read the title here. Zimbabwe's inflation is back at 3 digits. 3 digits. That means that at the least, they had 100% inflation, which means that at the very least, their inflation increased how much things costed by 100%. That's wild. Could you guys imagine living in the United States with the inflation rate of 175.8%? Carlton, you remember, quote unquote, Putin's price hike? That's what Joe Biden was calling it. He was calling it Putin's price hike. Do you remember that? Well, imagine your inflation being at 170. That's damn near 2%. That's almost double the regular price of a basket of goods in Zimbabwe. Okay. Zimbabwe inflation back at 3 digits after currency crashes. So their currency crashes. So do you guys remember when we were talking about the currency devaluations, hyperinflation, and a balance of payments crisis? Do you guys remember that? That's what we got going on right now in Zimbabwe. Wild, right? Industry body says inflation target is under a serious threat. All right, so let's look at this. Zimbabwe's annual inflation rate raced to triple digits for the first time in 5 months after multiple devaluations of the local currency led prices to surge. All right. Now, let me ask you guys a question. What happens during a currency devaluation? You said if it got that bad, you would have to find the OnlyFans hustle. you'd have to do some body capitalism, huh? Yeah, that's bad, man. That's bad. The blended consumer price index, which the Southern African nation adopted as its inflation benchmark in February, rose 175.8% in June from 86.5% the previous month. Zimbabwe National Statistics Agency said at a briefing. Prices climbed 74.5% in the month compared to 15.7% in May. Here in the United States, shout out to my man John Guillory. Imagine those prices. Imagine what that would do. Just imagine everything that you buy on a daily basis and imagine it first being 15.7% higher. Then imagine it being 74.5% higher. Then imagine it being 86.5% higher. And then imagine it being 175.8% higher. Imagine that. So Cameron says they did a coup against Mugabe and gave away their industry to white folks again to get relief, and the white folks doubled down. Well, let me ask you guys a question. Is the world correct? If the world is correct, give me a thumbs up. If it's not correct, then give me a thumbs down. Cultural backwards hustling in the motherland. The new gauge was selected as the agency said it better reflects the nation's economic reality because it tracks prices both in the U.S. and Zimbabwean dollars. Unlike the previous benchmark that only assessed cost in local currency terms. The greenback accounts for 75% of all transactions in the economy. So again, Zimbabwe is another one of these countries that's tied to the United States economic system. Okay, is widely used to pay for food, fuel, and services, and is preferred as a better store of value than the volatile Zimbabwean dollar. So they're more invested in the United States dollar than they are in stabilizing their own currency. Does that sound about right? If that sounds about right, give me a thumbs up. If it doesn't sound about right, then give me a thumbs down. And again, I want you guys to pay very close attention to the ethnic lack of interest in topics like this. Pay very close attention, and then pay attention to the outrage that people have when things aren't looking the way that they want them to look. If you don't invest any time, intellect, or effort into any of this kind of stuff, what is the expectation? No one should expect anything more than what we see right now. You got all these African channels with Africa in the name that don't talk about anything like this. Everybody just gets off on roasting for empowerment. There should be no expectation other than what we see right now. None. Not to mention the backwards hustling all the time. Zimbabwean inflation rate returns to triple digits. Blended inflation is at 3 digits for the first time in 5 months. I mean, that is horrendous. That's horrific. The Confederation of Zimbabwe Industries, the country's largest industry association, said in a report ahead of the release that it's unlikely that the monthly inflation target set by authorities of between 1 to 3% would be achieved this year. There's no possible way that they're going to get an inflation rate of 1 to 3% when their most recent inflation rate is about 178%. That's not going to happen. Carlton says, facts. There are only a few of us here, but if we were talking about top 5 rappers, it would be hundreds or thousands in the chat. Facts. Facts. So what you see is what you get, right? So nobody should be surprised when the outcomes aren't what people want them to be. And this is what I'm talking about people saying that stupid community talk, that cringe nonsense. I don't need to hear anything about a community because I always talk about this kind of stuff. And people only want to talk about it when they want other people to do the heavy lifting. And I'm not breaking my back for anybody. And I'd advise you guys not to either. You need your back and you need your spine for your own life. You know what I'm saying? Everybody wants to be a fashionable idiot. Let them look stupid as hell in style. You know what I'm saying? Let them look dumb as hell in style. And then just sit back when they're the laughing post of everybody else, like they always are all the time. It's not your problem. You know what I'm saying? The ability to meet blended inflation targets is now under serious threat, the association said. Inflation has been stoked by a sharp depreciation in the Zimbabwean dollar. The central bank has loosened controls on foreign exchange markets since May. It stopped short of free-floating the local currency in the battle to end volatility and close the gap between the official and black market rate. That's distorted pricing and led to a spike in food costs. Okay. The Zimbabwean dollar has depreciated 85% in the past 2 months on the official market. The high cost of living and currency weakness are likely to become rallying points heading up to the elections scheduled for August 23rd, which will see 11 candidates vie for the position of president, including the incumbent Emerson Mnangagwa. The central bank's monetary policy committee on June 6th lifted the world's highest interest rate of 150 from 140. So Zimbabwe's interest rate is the highest in the world. It went from 140 to 150. Now, let me ask you guys a question. What does a inflation rate going from 140 to 150 imply? What does that imply? For one, horrible economic management, right? Complete incompetency, an embarrassing level of incompetence, right? But aside from that, what else? 3 weeks ahead of a scheduled gathering to contain inflation, but has since ruled out further increases. We have already hiked rates, and there is a limit to hiking rates, beyond which point they will cause non-performing bank loans to increase, Governor John Mangana said last week. The central bank's recent moves form a part of a raft of measures by the authorities to stabilize the Zimbabwean dollar, including Mnangagwa's prohibition on the bank borrowing any foreign currency without prior approval from the Treasury. All right. So now my question is, how do you all think that the living conditions in Zimbabwe are? You think that it's fun over there? You guys think that it's a do you guys think that it's a walk in the park over in Zimbabwe? You think that they're enjoying life right now with those high prices? I'll tell you what. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you all feel that Zimbabwe is doing just as good of a job with its currency as people are here with politics? If you guys feel that those things are about equal, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't feel that they're about equal, give me a thumbs down. I think that they're about equal. I think both are being managed at about the same level of incompetence. Would you guys agree? Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed the like button, make sure that you guys smash the like button. Shout out to the people watching over on Rumble. On Rumble, we got 9 people watching. If everybody could smash the like button over there and share the stream, that would be great. On YouTube, we have a whopping 4 people watching. Shout out to the whopping 4 people on YouTube. If you guys could smash the like button, that'd be great. Sierra Leone votes amid cost of living crisis delays. So yet again, another country failing. Another country failing in the empire of greatness, failing flat on its face, just like the interest rate. What a time to celebrate, right? So now here it says vote counting began in Sierra Leone on Saturday following a mostly peaceful general election, despite a late start in some polling stations as the opposition denounced alleged irregularities. President Julius Maada Bio is seeking a second term amid a crippling cost of living crisis that sparked deadly riots last year. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How many people heard about this cost of living crisis that was going on in Sierra Leone? If you guys heard about this cost of living crisis that was going on in Sierra Leone, give me a thumbs up. If you guys didn't hear about it, then give me a thumbs down. 12 men and 1 woman are vying for the top job, though Bio's main challenger is Samra Kamara of the All People's Congress. Bio, who is 59 of Sierra Leone's People's Party, narrowly beat Kamara, who is age 72, in a runoff in 2018. Polling stations were scheduled to open at 7 a.m. and close at 5 p.m., but many stations in the capital, Freetown, opened late, AFP journalists saw. By 5:40 p.m., tallying had begun at the Aberdeen police station in Freetown, AFP journalists saw. Many stations were likely to remain open longer after the Electoral Commission confirmed in a statement that all voters in queue at 5 p.m. would be allowed to vote. Polling is going on a relatively peaceful manner, the commission said in a statement. There were logistical challenges in some polling centers relating to the late arrival of the materials. After casting his ballot at the Wilberforce Barracks in Freetown on Saturday morning, Bio encouraged citizens to participate peacefully. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you all, shout out to my man Michael R, and shout out to Fanteezy, what's good with y'all? How many of you guys were aware of these volatility issues when it comes to the voting in Sierra Leone? If you guys were aware, give me a thumbs up. If you guys were not aware, then give me a thumbs down. Okay. Go out and vote. It's your right, he said. Vote safely. If you win, celebrate safety. Kamara voted in the Freetown neighborhood of Lumley, telling reporters that this election is about the future of Sierra Leone. Now, let me ask you guys a question. What do you all think that the future of Sierra Leone is looking like? What do you think the future of any of these nations is looking like? They're having a cost of living crisis right now. And I really hope that that cost of living crisis that they're having right now isn't looking as bad as it is in Zimbabwe. Because in Zimbabwe, it's looking pretty damn bad. Yeah, I got to agree. If you guys agree with Carlton, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. It's looking grim. It's looking grim like the fairy tales. So now here it says, but he said the polling station, which opened more than 2 hours late, and AFP journalists saw, was congested. Don't be surprised if there's confusion. Kamara has for weeks lambasted the Electoral Commission for alleged bias in favor of the governing party. National Election Watch, a coalition of civil society groups, said 84% of the polling stations it was observing had opened by 8 o'clock a.m. However, only 59% of the stations in Freetown area had opened by the time. 2 AFP journalists arrived at a polling station in central Freetown on Saturday afternoon, where voting was just getting underway. A soldier present told AFP voting had started at 2 o'clock p.m. I'm so impressed by the resilience and fortitude of voters, many of whom stood in line for hours in the hot sun to exercise their right to vote, U.S. Ambassador David Reamer said on Twitter. Now, here's my thing. If the U.S. ambassadors are over there encouraging people to vote, 9 times out of 10, what's being done is they're probably going to put in some kind of chosen official. It's probably not going to be a legitimately chosen grassroots politician. Would you guys agree? Yeah, I got to agree. If you guys agree with Cameron, give me a thumbs up. More than likely a puppet. Okay. Sierra Leone, look at this. Sierra Leone was still recovering from the West Africa Ebola epidemic of 2014 through 2016 and was hit again hard by the COVID pandemic and the fallout of Russia's war in Ukraine. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How would the Russia war with Ukraine affect Sierra Leone, and why would it affect Sierra Leone? Why would that affect Sierra Leone? Year on year, look at this. Year on year inflation in the country hit 43% in April. So not only are these countries constantly in political turmoil, these countries are constantly in financial turmoil. Constantly in financial turmoil. Look at that financial turmoil. Sadly, that sounds better than what was going on in Zimbabwe, but that's still horrible. Imagine dealing with 43% inflation here in the United States with the products that you use on a daily basis. In the Crew Bay slum, a long queue of voters snaked along a rubbish-filled stream towards a polling station that had only partially opened by 9 a.m. There's too much hardship, not enough to eat, and inflation is too high. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How could any of those problems be solved? How could any of those problems be solved? It's not that difficult. Those problems could be solved if necessary, if people wanted to solve them, but they remain unsolved. So clearly, I guess what that's saying is that it's somewhat tolerable, right? Because if they really wanted to solve the problems, then they would solve them. So my question is, how do you tolerate remaining in a state like that? And who's supposed to feel sorry for you? That's my question. There is too much hardship, not enough to eat, and inflation is too high. What kind of environment does this create? What kind of environment does this create, guys? Bangura, a 48-year-old commercial driver queuing to vote here there. We are suffering, so I want change. Okay, so now my question is, what kind of change do you want, and what's being done to drive that change? Mohammed Warati, a 27-year-old security guard, said he was voting for Bio because of his investments in education and healthcare. Bio built a hospital in my village with 100 beds, Warty said. Bio tipped to win. Some 3.4 million people are registered to vote, 52.4% of whom are under 35 years old, according to an electoral commission spokesperson. Now, let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to the average age of the people invested in voting over there, are those people younger than they are here? Are those people younger than they are here? If they are, give me a thumbs up. If they're not, give me a thumbs down. Candidates must secure 55% of valid votes for a first round win. Voters will also elect members of a parliament and local councils under a recently passed Gender Act. A third of all candidates must be women. So, what do you guys think about that? How do you all feel about that? Now, here's my question. Who do you think encouraged them to do that? And my question is, why did they listen? Does any other country have a gender policy like that? Voters will also elect members of parliament and local councils under a recently passed Gender Act. A third of all candidates must be women. How do you all feel about that? Many Sierra Leoneans vote based on regional alliances as jobs and benefits are commonly perceived to flow to regions whose politicians are in power. Bio, a former coup leader in the 1990s, has championed education and women's rights in his first civilian term. Now, Do you all think that that's energy well spent championing women's rights? Do you guys think that that's the best way to spend the energy? If you guys think that that's the best way to spend the energy, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't, then give me a thumbs down. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed the like button, please make sure you guys take a moment, smash that like button. Shout out to the 7 people watching on YouTube. Shout out to the 2 people watching on Twitch. And shout out to the 13 people watching on Rumble. If everybody can hit that like button, share the stream. And also, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. That would be great. Shout out to my man Lloyd Sky 9. What's good with it, bro? Kamara, a former foreign and finance minister, is facing a protracted trial over allegations that he misappropriated public funds as a former minister, a case he says is politically motivated. Now, let me ask you all a question. Do you all think that that case was politically motivated, or do you think that his reason for being a corrupt politician was politically motivated? Which one do you guys think was politically motivated? A June 14th poll by the Institute for Governance Reform forecast that Bio would win 56% of the vote, with 43% for Kamara. Another poll conducted by the newspaper Sierra Eye and 2 local data groups forecast 38% for the incumbent and 25% for Kamara. The elections are being closely followed in West Africa, a region recently dominated by coups and turmoil. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Why are so many coups and turmoil going on in Western Africa? What's going on there? Why is everything so unstable there? Does that make sense? There's got to be something going on. Got to be something going on. So my question for you guys is, what do you guys think is going on there? Because you don't hear very much about Sierra Leone in the mainstream media, do you? You don't hear too much. So my question is, why don't you hear that much? Do you not hear that much because possibly people aren't interested? Or do you not hear that much because they're attempting to cover some sort of corruption? That's the question. If you guys agree with Carlton that America's meddling in their business, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, then give me a thumbs down. I agree. That's exactly what's going on. America can barely take care of its own business, yet it's manipulating foreign governments. Let me ask you guys a question. Do you all think that America had anything to do with the revolt in Russia? You think somebody might have got a little bit of money from somewhere? What do you guys think about Zambia's debt deal with China? Why is there an existing debt deal with Zambia and China? Why is that going on? Why is this going on? Zambia's debt deal with China is a landmark moment. Now, let me ask you guys a question. What's landmark about this moment? And look at who's holding up the Zambia sign. Pay attention. Look at all the people in the back. And then look at the guy holding up the Zambia sign. Look at this. Look. Anything wrong with that picture? Is there anything wrong with that picture? What do you guys notice wrong with that picture? Or is that what's right with the picture? Is that wrong with the picture, or is that right with the picture? Let me know what's going on with that picture. The restructuring of the African countries' borrowing signals that China is ready to play by the developed world's rules. Why are they borrowing money from China? Why are they borrowing money from China? Zambia may seem like an unlikely catalyst for an epical shift in global finance, but the significance of the landlocked African nations' 6.3 billion debt restructuring agreement isn't to be doubted. $6.3 billion. Let me ask you guys a question. How does a country that has so much money and natural resources sign its soul to China for $6.3 billion? That's a great question, Cameron. Why are they in debt? They will be bragging about their spending power soon. They'll be bragging about their spending power soon. And then they'll be crying later. They'll be bragging about their spending power, and then they'll be crying about it later. The immediate consequences were evident. A rally in bonds and currency of low-income countries as a potential blockage in the framework for dealing with sovereign debt distress is lifted. The more enduring legacy, though, may lie in what this deal says about China. Now, let me ask you guys this question. What does this deal say about China? What does it say about China? What does this deal say about China? The world has changed beyond recognition since the Latin American debt crisis of the 1980s, a situation which parallels to Africa's current troubles. Now, do you guys remember when the Russia and Ukraine conflict first started and we were talking about the Latin American debt crisis as a reference to what could possibly happen if inflation got way out of control? If you guys remember that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, or I mean, if you guys remember that, give me a thumbs up. If you don't remember that, give me a thumbs down. You guys remember that? Because we referenced it. We definitely referenced it. Back then, almost 40 years ago, China was a poor country, still emerging from decades of hardline Maoist policies. Now it is a global superpower, owner of the world's second largest economy and Africa's largest bilateral lender, holding more than $70 billion of debt as of 2020. $70 billion of debt as of 2020. Now, let me ask you guys something. Did the United States contribute to the fall of China's past government? China and Great Britain definitely contributed to it, right? But now look at what's going on now versus what was going on in the past. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys haven't smashed the like button, please take a moment. Make sure you guys smash that like button. Also, if you guys haven't hit the bell, make sure that you guys hit the bell and please share the stream to your social media, wherever you're watching from. The world has changed beyond recognition since the Latin American debt crisis of the 1980s, a situation with parallels to Africa's current troubles. Back then, almost 40 years ago, China was a poor country, still emerging from decades of hardline Maoist policies. Now it is a global superpower, owner of the world's second largest economy and Africa's largest bilateral lender, holding more than $70 billion of debt as of 2020. Yet the architecture for restructuring the debt of countries that get into economic difficulties hasn't fundamentally changed. Okay. So now what I want you guys to focus on is look at how China has made this turnaround and look at Africa still borrowing this money. What do you guys think about that? What do you guys think about this current situation here? You guys think you guys think people like hearing about this kind of stuff? You know one thing that I've noticed, and I want to know if you guys have noticed this as well. Do you notice that people like to preemptively stay away from difficult topics? And then when those difficult topics come to haunt them, they say that nobody ever told them about it, as if it's anybody's responsibility to feed people information. Have you guys noticed that? If you guys have noticed that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys haven't noticed that, give me a thumbs down. Now, my question is, if people consistently behave like that, should those people be granted any sympathy by anyone at all? Carl just said Africa wants a spot next to the T-Rex at the National Museum of Science. I agree. And I agree with Lloyd Sky 9. No. No. None whatsoever. They're going to be living that oblivion life in a minute. An arrangement that fails to reflect global economic reality isn't sustainable. However, there have been stumbling blocks in bringing China into the mechanism by which such issues are resolved. There is a forum, and it's called the Paris Club, an informal group of creditor countries founded in 1956 that coordinates on debt solutions for troubled borrowers. China, though, doesn't want to belong to what it sees as a rich world group, regarding itself as a fellow developing nation that is extending help to lower income countries. Chinese lenders have splurged on loans to nations across Africa for mines, railways, and other infrastructure, partially to build political influence and foster trade, and partly in search of returns. So now I want you guys to pay very close attention to China's financial strategy in Africa. Now, let me ask you guys a question, just to get a general consensus. What is China's financial strategy for Africa? And my question is, how come all of the channels on YouTube that have Africa in their name aren't talking about what China's financial strategy is for Africa? Because there's a lot of channels on YouTube that have Africa in their name, but the question is, are they talking about any of this kind of stuff here? I mean, because this is news that's going on in Africa. The solution was the common framework created by the Group of 20 Nations in the late 2020s, which brought China, India, and Saudi Arabia to the same negotiating table with the mostly Western creditors of bygone debt crises. Call it the Paris Club without the baggage. But progress has been largely stalled, essentially because of Beijing's attempt to impose its own rules. International Monetary Fund Managing Director Kristalina Georgievna has stated the issue succinctly. China has been very slow to recognize that multilateral debt restructuring requires China to play by the rules that are already established, she told Bloomberg Television in April. Now is the time for China to demonstrate that they are capable of playing by these rules. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Is it a matter of China playing by the rules, or does China have to play by the rules because China is such a powerful financial entity? Which one more accurately describes the situation? Successful debt restructurings require openness and multilateral cooperation. China has never been particularly fond of either. In geopolitical terms, its dislike of multilateralism reflects fears of encirclement and containment. Now, do you guys remember when we talked about encirclement and containment? If you guys remember when we talked about encirclement and containment, give me a thumbs up. If you guys do not remember that, then give me a thumbs down, because we definitely talked about that. Now, that's one thing, at least according to this article, that China wants to avoid having happen to it. In disputes over territorial boundaries in the South China Sea, for example, it has insisted on bilateral negotiations with Southeast Asian nations rather than dealing with them as a group. Now, why would it do that? In disputes over territorial boundaries in the South China Sea, for example, it has insisted on bilateral negotiations with Southeast Asian nations rather than dealing with them as a group. Now, is that strategic? There's a strategy behind why they would do it that way. What's the strategy behind why they would do it that way? What's the point of them doing that? A particular impasse in Zambia talks was China's view that the IMF and World Bank should also take a haircut or get back less than what they are owed in the debt restructuring. This was always a non-starter. To begin with, the multilateral lenders extend finance on a concessionary terms. Their burden and their debt imposed on recipient nations is relatively insignificant and forces them to absorb losses along with other lenders that would have undermined support for institutions among countries that fund them. Many details of the Zambia debt relief have yet to be disclosed, but what we know is that the country will pay interest rates as low as 1% until 2037, according to Bloomberg News, which cited people familiar with the matter. But it appears China must have yielded on its demand for IMF and World Bank haircuts. Otherwise, there would have been no agreement. It's a significant shift, especially after the muted reception that the U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken got when visiting Beijing last week in his attempts to repair ties. How likely do you all think that it is for the United States to repair its issues with China? How likely is it? Is it highly likely or not very likely? China's flexibility has helped to demonstrate the feasibility of the common framework approach. The deal, which Zambia President Hakainde Hichilema hailed as mission impossible, has also shown that heavily indebted African country can have agency over its economic fortunes, said Chris Van Dome, a senior research fellow in the Africa program at London's Chatham House Research Institute. The sharp tightening of global financial conditions has added an impetus, due in part to higher interest rates annual debt payments by more than 70 low-income nations rose 35% last year to about 62 billion. As of May 36, as of May, 36 were either in or at high risk of debt distress. 36 African nations were at high risk of debt distress, IMF data show. Now, let me ask you guys this question. Again, this is one of the reasons why we're doing this audit. Why are these nations in such bad financial shape? Why are these audits in such bad financial shape? Why does this country look so horrendous financially? The longer the debt resolution process stalls, the greater the potential damage. Zambia was classified as a low-income nation. A low-income nation. How the hell are you a low-income nation? Zambia was classified a low-income nation in 2021 for the first time in 2011. I need to know how one classifies as a low-income nation. How does that happen? Can somebody explain that to me, how that works? How does that happen? They classified as a low-income nation. How does one manage that with its GDP? And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to the people watching on YouTube. We got 8 people watching and we got 9 likes. If everybody could smash that like button, that would be great. Shout out to the people on Rumble watching. We got 10 people watching. If everybody could smash that like button, that would be great. The Zambia agreement reduces the risk of Africa experiencing a lost decade akin to Latin America after its crisis. So Zambia got into this agreement to attempt to avoid a currency devaluation crisis like what went on in Latin America. Creditor nations should lose no time now in moving ahead on Ethiopia. Look at this. Creditor nations should lose no time now in moving ahead on Ethiopia, Ghana, Sri Lanka, and other nations that could benefit from common framework restructurings. If you're looking for another reason to celebrate, the Zambia success may just help sell China on the virtues of multilateralism. Interest rates, it seems, have achieved what diplomacy couldn't. All right. So now these people are doing anything. They're doing literally whatever they can, even if it's a bad situation, to make their debt look a little bit more favorable on paper. Now, is that wise? Is that really the smartest thing to do? I don't know if that's the smartest thing to do. I don't know if that's the best decision to make. If you ask me, there's a possibility that it's not the best thing to do. Now, what I want you guys to do is I want you to take a look at this picture here and let me know what you notice about this picture. Goshen explores Africa's first gigafactory in Morocco. The Chinese battery maker is considering a $6.4 billion investment in the country. Now, what do you guys notice about this? What do you guys notice about this picture with businessmen and a businesswoman? Is there anything that strikes anybody right off the bat about this picture? What do you guys happen to notice about this picture? The people in this picture are all people that somebody in a YouTube comment section would say they shouldn't be talking about black issues while they're actually in an African country banking on black issues. That's what people should notice in that picture. So what you should notice in this picture is YouTube talking points getting a country waxed. YouTube talking points getting a country waxed. That's what people should notice about this picture. You know what I'm saying? Chinese battery cell manufacturer and Volkswagen partner Goshen High-Tech has reached an agreement with Morocco to look into establishing a 100 gigawatt hour battery facility in what could be the company's largest by targeted capacity and Africa's first gigafactory. Africa's first gigafactory is not Africa's own gigafactory. Africa's first gigafactory is not Africa's own gigafactory. In a release on May 31st, the Moroccan government said it had signed a memorandum of understanding with Goshen for setting up an integrated industrial ecosystem for the production of batteries used in electronic vehicles and energy storage systems. Now, do you guys remember before I turned Blacklight Revelations 4 into Reacts, we used to talk about the renewable energy economy, and I said that that would be something that wouldn't be a bad idea for people to get into. Instead of getting into renewable energy, people got more into nonsense. And now there's more non-African people getting into the African economy through the way of reusable energy, which is going to be one of the industries that thrives and creates new billionaires in the future. Now, let me ask you guys a question. Whose fault is that? Not ours. So now my question is, what do you do when people stand around googly-eyed at opportunities and they just sit there and let other people pick whatever opportunities it is that they want while they sit there and let life pass them by? Again, there shouldn't I don't understand what level of sympathy should be expected for those kind of circumstances. Hell, right. Nobody told us. It didn't matter if somebody tell people anyway. People don't listen, and people find silly excuses to not listen until it's too late, which it is what it is. It is what it is. Sympathy should only be given when sympathy is deserved, and in many cases sympathy is not deserved. But we have a whole population of weaklings who want to sit there and listen to pity politics and have idiocy coddling. The only thing that should coddle idiots, if you ask me, are flames. Nothing else. The estimated investment could, look at this, the estimated investment could reach up to DH65BN, which is $6.4 billion, and create 25,000 jobs over 10 years. Now, let me ask you guys a question, right? These are 25,000 jobs going 10 years into the future. Do you think these are going to be 25,000 human jobs? Because I'm sure that artificial intelligence and automation will be able to work and take care of some of these jobs that this has available. Would you guys agree? I don't think that, shout out to Val. What's good with it, Val? I don't think that all of these jobs here will necessarily be jobs that will be worked by human beings. I think a lot of these jobs are things that will be able to be done by artificial intelligence and automation. So remember, this is an estimate of 25 billion jobs as what defines jobs as of right now. But the definition of jobs and how jobs could be worked over the next 10 years is going to change dramatically. And people can be as outraged as they want to about immigrants. You're not sending artificial intelligence back over the conveyor belt. That's not happening. So keep blaming problems on immigrants when artificial intelligence is coming for the exact same thing, and you're not going to do anything about artificial intelligence. You know what I'm saying? The estimated investment could reach up to $6.4 billion and create 25,000 jobs over 10 years, according to Morocco's Ministry of Investment, Convergence, and Evaluation of Public Policies. Goshen is pleased to be working with Morocco on this project to contribute to decarbonization and the deployment of innovative energy solutions, said Li Zin, the chairman of Goshen High Tech, in a statement. So again, do you all remember on the last episode of Auditing Africa when we talked about the clean energy industry and all of what could be done with those companies and those emerging clean energy markets? Do you guys remember that? Well, if you guys pay attention now, this Chinese company is very interested in utilizing Morocco for this battery factory for this energy initiative. We talked about this on Blacklight Revelations 4 2 years ago. And you know what was more important? The Kardashians, Zion Williams' baby mom, anything that Steve Harvey said, and Umar Johnson podcasts. So again, this is more evidence that the world is correct. And there's people that want to listen to coddle creators, sit there and tell them how life isn't fair and all this shit. You know who life's not fair for? Life's not fair for somebody born with a half a brain, not somebody born with a whole brain that operates like they have a half a brain because they smoked half of it out in their teenage fucking years. That's who life's not fair for. Would you guys agree? If you guys agree, give me a thumbs up. If you guys disagree, give me a thumbs down. And real quick, shout out to the 20 people watching on Rumble. If you guys haven't smashed the like button, please take a moment, smash that like button. It'd be great to get 20 likes on Rumble, so please smash that like button. And shout out to the 8 people watching on YouTube. We got 10 likes. If everybody could smash the like button and try to get the YouTube likes where the Rumble likes are, that'd be great. No details have been given to the final investment decision or construction timeline for the project. A spokesperson for Goshen declined to comment on their MOU with Morocco. However, should the full 6.4 billion capital be pledged to be realized, this would be look at this. This would be the second largest foreign direct investment project ever announced in Morocco, according to the Greenfield Investment Monitor FDI markets. That is behind Total Iran's planned $100 billion hydrogen and green ammonia project announced last year. Do you all remember 2 years ago when I was talking about these chemical products, I was talking about all of these chemical products, all of these these energy initiatives. And people couldn't be bothered. Now the money's not going to be bothered with people. And it is what it is. I don't have any sympathy for this. I'm going to tell you guys something. I have no sympathy for anything going forward. Nothing. No sympathy for anything. If it's something that I've already talked about and people drop the ball on it, no sympathy. You can only put your hand on a stove and burn it so many times until somebody says, you know, I don't feel sorry for you. You're just an idiot. Shout out to Carla. What's good with it, Carla? You know what I mean? And so I don't know if you guys have noticed, but that's one of the reasons why I'm doing more content on the specialty channels. Because I don't want to be dealing with a bunch of idiots that are just watching shit for entertainment. I want to deal with the core of people that actually want to utilize this kind of information and actually do something for themselves with it. I know that the few people that come into the streams on the specialty channels, you guys actually want to do something and make a change. You guys got to come to the grips with the reality that the majority of people do not. You guys have to come to the grips of the reality that the majority of people are idiots. The majority of people do not deserve oxygen, and the majority of people should have been swallowed and not born. But because you guys were born and have functional brains and you want to use your brains wisely, I'm going to be doing more live streams on Oil and Gold Railroad, Tales from the Cryptocurrency, Auditing Africa. I might do some live streams on Black Light Revelations 1 and 2 once a month, because who wants to deal with all that extra noise for nothing to happen in return? Who wants to deal with that? Do you guys want to deal with that? If you guys want to deal with that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't want to deal with that, give me a thumbs down. Me personally, I don't want to deal with it. I don't want to look in my comment section and see idiotic comments. I don't want to see idiotic, non-solution based, outraged comments. I don't care about that shit. I don't have sympathy for that. Me personally, I'm not even trying to be funny. Me personally, I'm sick of it. You know what I'm saying? I know you guys got to be. So now, look at this. Goshen's project will become Morocco's second largest ever. The 10 biggest foreign investment projects in Morocco by industry and source market. Now, let me ask you guys a question. As large as the African economy could possibly be as a total, the whole entire continent, why is it that look at all these countries? Look at these flags of these places that invested. China got 3. Look, $6.4 billion, China. $6.3 billion or $2.3 billion, China. $2 billion, China. France, 1.3. Great Britain, 2.3. Me personally, Carlton, I don't want to save the Maury crowd. I don't want to save them. To me, they're no different than the people that we have to deal with. No different. None. I see them no different. I don't give a shit what Umar Johnson says. As far as I'm concerned, Umar Johnson is one of those people too. See, like, so you know how, like, when they talk about villains, Magneto cares about all mutants and he wants to protect mutants, and Professor X cares about everybody and he wants to save everybody. I'm telling you, that's why I've been studying apocalypse quotes. Because I'm more like Apocalypse. I don't care about that saving all mutants shit. I don't give a shit about it. They gave a perfect example of mutants. They said that if there's a mutant and that mutant is weaker than the Incredible Hulk, by Apocalypse philosophy, the Incredible Hulk deserves to persist and that weak mutant doesn't. I agree with Apocalypse. Prodigy from Mobb Deep said it. The weak die and the strong survive. Survival of the fit. We live in this to the day that we die. Survival of the fit. Only the strong survive. That's real. So as much as people get off on calling themselves a powerless people, what kind of survival prospects are there for a powerless people if only the strong survive? And that's one of the reasons why I tell people should really be careful about the kind of phraseology that they use. Because sometimes you can talk yourself right into a casket. And like I said, it's a lot of people that only get their information on YouTube and they only get it from coddle creators. And that shit is cool if you're sitting there eating a tub of ice cream, but YouTube talking points to get you waxed in real life. So now here it says Goshen's plant 100 gigawatt capacity would also be one of only 13 facilities of this scale out of 392 gigafactories tracked globally by Benchmark Mineral Intelligence, an EV supply chain information provider. Achieving such a capacity would not only significantly bolster Goshen's growing presence in the global market, but also place Morocco among the ranks of the top cell producing nations. Now, if this goes on this projected trajectory, what would this do for the value of this company called Goshen? That's my question for you guys. If this venture goes as planned, what kind of effect will this have on Goshen? What kind of effect will it have? Moroccan officials have tried to attract FDI in the EV supply chain by underlying the existing presence of major automakers, including Renault and Stellantis, their suppliers, and the availability of relatively cheap renewable energy. Mohsin Jazoli, Morocco's delegate minister who heads MICEPP, said that the MOU with Goshen was the first step towards an investment agreement for the Gigafactory, which will strengthen the country's presence as a leading player in the automotive industry. Mr. Hartley notes that while cheaper operating costs in Morocco may have been a drawer for Goshen, it may face challenges in sourcing a sufficiently skilled workforce in the country. One roadblock many established producers face when expanding globally is a smaller skilled labor pool than is available domestically and the subsequent need to train and develop workers on site. Goshen's intent to build a plant in Morocco, which could increase its pipeline battery cell manufacturing capacity by 33.2% by the end of the decade, is part of a wider trend of Chinese battery cell producers investing heavily into European and North American markets. So now let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to Goshen, what does it seem like their goal is? Yeah, exactly, Cameron. So you see how that came together like that, right? Cameron says it's right near Europe, so they will have the market on lock. So now let me ask you guys a question. Is this a company that wouldn't be a bad idea to be looked into? Is this a company that people should keep their eyes on? If you guys think that this is a company that people should keep their eyes on, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't think that it's a company that people should keep their eyes on, then give me a thumbs down. I think that this is definitely a company that people should be keeping their eyes on. I'm going to read this again. Goshen's intent to build a plant in Morocco, which could increase its pipeline battery cell manufacturing capacity by 33.2% by the end of the decade, is part of a wider trend of Chinese battery cell producers investing heavily into European and North American markets. The U.S. state of Michigan approved a separate Goshen investment last October, which will see the company invest $2.3 billion into a battery component facility. Now, if I'm not mistaken, that's that company that all of the white people were upset with that was moving into that Michigan community. And we did a video about it and Fox News covered it. Do you guys remember that? If you guys remember that, give me a thumbs up. If you guys don't remember that, give me a thumbs down. And real quick, ladies and gentlemen, shout out to everybody that's watching on YouTube. We got 11 people watching on YouTube. If everybody could take a moment and help get this stream over 20 likes by smashing the like button, that would be great. And shout out to the people on Rumble. On Rumble, we got 11 people watching right now. If everybody on Rumble can hit that like button and also share the stream to your social media, that would be great. Plans by Chinese companies abroad to coincide with intense research and development efforts focused on new battery chemistries, which aim to improve safety, increase the range of EVs, and reduce reliance on battery-grade minerals, which are high in demand. In May of 2023, Goshen unveiled a new lithium iron manganese phosphate battery, which it claims can reach 1,000 kilometer range without relying on nickel manganese cobalt oxide, one of the two most commonly used lithium iron battery chemistry combinations alongside lithium iron phosphate. Why is that important? Didn't we talk about lithium? If we talked about lithium before, give me a thumbs up and let me know when and where we talked about it. So now let me ask you guys a question. When it comes to commodity markets, moving into a battery operated era, moving into a energy reliance era, would lithium be a bad commodity to keep an eye on? If you guys think that lithium wouldn't be a bad idea to keep an eye on, give me a thumbs up. If you guys do think that it's a bad idea, then give me a thumbs down. Morocco has manganese resources and is one of the biggest phosphate producers in the world. That by itself would make the country attractive to gigafactories, said Magnus Becker, the founder of Giga Manganese, a market intelligence company specialized on the manganese used in energy storage systems. Again, Blacklight Revelations 4, which is no longer in existence. Energy storage. Tried it. He continues that there are huge opportunities for companies in Morocco and other African countries with batteries materials to serve demand for Chinese cell makers. And keep in mind, some of those countries that are lithium producers. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you guys think. Please make sure you guys leave lots of comments at the end of the stream. Smash the like button. Make sure you guys hit the bell. If you're not subscribed to the Discord, make sure that you subscribe. Also, make sure you guys subscribe to the backup channels. Share the stream, and I will catch you guys on the next video. All right.